Horse camping is literally the most fun that you can have with your horse. So if you are interested in trying it, if you're brand new and you're wondering, am I even cut out for this? Is my horse cut out for this? We're gonna talk about that today, and I'm gonna outline for you some of the things to be thinking about and preparing for as you get ready for your very first horse camping trip. Hi, my name is Stephanie, and on my channel, I just love to chat about horse stuff. I have a draft horse and we trail ride and horse camp on a regular basis. So if you are interested in more of that kind of stuff, I've got more videos for you to check out down in the description. I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel, and let's get started. So first of all, you wanna prepare your horse. You wanna make sure, first of all, that your horse is comfortable being on trail. So if your horse has not gone out on trail yet, I would recommend starting with trail riding. Get your horse used to being out on the trail, get them used to riding with other horses, get them used to trailering and making sure that they can load comfortably, because a lot of times when horses get into new situations, for some reason they decide that they don't want to get into the trailer, and you don't want to have that happen on your horse camping trip. So just make sure that all of that stuff is kind of old hat for your horse. I would also make sure that your horse is already comfortable eating and drinking away from home. So the way that I did this is I started getting my horse used to eating and drinking on trail. So anytime we would come across a water trough that I knew was safe for horses, I would bring him over to it. I would encourage him to drink. When we were done with our ride and I was untacking him, I would offer him some grain or some hay so that he could get used to just kind of being away from home and eating and drinking. Hopefully your horse trailer has a water container in it that you can bring some water from home, fill it up in a bucket, offer it to them after your ride. So if your horse is brand new to trail riding and you're thinking, gosh, how long is this gonna take? You know, every horse is different. Your horse may just be comfortable drinking and eating away from home right away. But I know with my horse, it took a lot of rides before he actually took the plunge, no pun intended, and started drinking. And it actually was helpful to have a buddy with us there, because he watched that other horse drink and then he decided to drink as well. And speaking of buddies, I would make sure that your horse is comfortable riding with other horses, preferably the horse that you plan to go horse camping with. Most people start their horse camping journey with other horses, and that is definitely what I would recommend. There's very few people that I've heard of that actually do the horse camping thing completely solo. Horses are herd animals and they derive a lot of comfort and safety from being around other horses. So the way I got started doing this again is that I started trail riding with friends, and I joined a local horsemen's association and got to meet other people and get my horse comfortable riding in groups. And these people actually ended up being the very people that I would go horse camping with in the end. I would also check with your vet. So the very first horse camping trip that I did, I was super nervous because I had heard stories about horses that wouldn't eat or wouldn't drink and they would colic or they would freak out. So I called my vet and said, hey, this is what we're planning to do. Do you have any tips, any things that I should look out for? And she gave me a tube of Banamine. She encouraged me to bring some electrolytes. And she said, really the priority is getting them to eat and drink. Some people will put flavored things into their horse's water. I've heard of people doing carrot juice, apple juice, beer, Kool-Aid, I think even. So again, check with your vet and see what he or she recommends. But that's kind of a horse camper's trick that a lot of people will do, because sometimes horses don't want to drink water that tastes different. And they're just like, I don't want this stuff. So to avoid having that happen, people will again fill up their water tank in their trailer so that they've got enough water from home, and then they will mix that with whatever water supply that you have at your campsite. Thankfully, our very first horse camping trip, that wasn't an issue for Fame, and he did drink the water that they had at the campsite. But it is something to be aware of that some horses can be a little bit finicky about. So after you've determined that your horse is prepared and totally ready to do this, then I would find somebody to actually do your first horse camping trip. And if you don't have any immediate friends that you know of that do this, you could consider asking around at your stable or your barn, connecting with your trainer and see if your trainer knows anybody. There are Facebook groups for horse camping where you might be able to connect with someone in your area. And personally for me, my choice option was to connect with a local horsemen's association. So I would Google horsemen's associations in your area, riding clubs, And very often there are groups of people who love to do this as well that hopefully you can connect with. Now, if you've got your own trailer, there's some preparation things you can do that I'll talk about a little bit later in the video. But if you're going with someone and planning to use their trailer, one thing I do recommend is doing a test drive with the horse they plan to bring and your horse in their trailer. Some horses will kick and not be so comfortable being trailered with a horse that they don't know. I would definitely want to do kind of a meet and greet and make sure that they know each other and that they're friendly and that they can handle being trailered well together. And you don't want to show up at your campsite and find out that your horse is lame or injured or vice versa because they just kind of had a squabble in the trailer. So that's definitely something that you can prep ahead of time. So after you've prepped your horse and found someone to go with, now you've got to figure out where you're going and plan for your destination. I chose a very local destination for my first horse camping trip just in case things didn't go well for whatever reason. We could turn around that same day and come home. If you don't have any campgrounds where you're at, one thing you could try as just a test run overnighter is your local fairgrounds. I know a lot of fairgrounds in the United States, at least in California, open themselves up for travelers, particularly people with horses, to be able to pay a very inexpensive flat fee. And it just kind of gives you a strange new place to trailer your horse and try the whole camping thing and see how they do. Personally, I would pick a campsite that has pipe panel corrals already installed there so that you don't have to worry about high lining or high tying your horse your first trip out. You can just put your horse straight into an already solid contained situation. If you are interested in learning more about your options for containment when you are horse camping, you can definitely check out this video here that I did that offers you a wide variety of options that you can consider. If for some reason you do have to highline or high tie or use electric fencing of some kind when you camp, I definitely recommend trying that at home first, just to make sure that your horse is comfortable with that kind of situation. I highly recommend studying the trails you plan to ride in advance of your trip. So I personally really like All Trails. It's an online web-based system where you can map out your trail. I like using the desktop version. There's also an app, but really the desktop version I find a lot more user-friendly for this sort of thing. It's super helpful when you're camping to kind of have a feel for this stuff in advance or to have your routes actually planned. Because I have found that between the stress of getting the horses loaded and taken care of, getting all of my stuff, getting to the campsite, getting set up, cooking, all the stuff that goes into camping, the last thing I want to do is not be able to remember like where the trails are or what direction to go. It's just really helpful to have all of that planned out in advance. As you are planning your route, I would also plan out where you can get gas if you think you will need to get gas between home and your destination. Now, hopefully, if you're able to do a really close local trip, you won't need gas, but there's a chance that you might. And it's really helpful to know where you can pull off along the way, where you can find a gas station. I always like kind of getting some kind of idea of that so that I'm not scrambling with my phone or having someone scramble with their phone trying to find us a place to get gas at the very last minute. It's also really helpful to practice pulling into a gas station with a rig. You can just hook up your empty horse trailer and practice this if this is brand new to you, or if you get a little bit nervous when you're driving with a horse trailer. It is a really nice thing to kind of get taken care of before you're dealing with live animals and all the stuff. I would book your reservation with the park as soon as you know you want to go. There are some campsites and campgrounds where it's first come, first serve. And personally, I would not want to do that for my very first trip. It's just an added level of stress that I could potentially show up and there would be no place for us to camp. So I like to use campsites where I know I can book it ahead of time. I have not found that the state and local government sites are always the most intuitive when it comes to making reservations, but inevitably I have managed to kind of figure it out and pay my fees and everything's been okay, but it's definitely something that I'm glad I took care of ahead of time. And another really big tip that I really encourage you to do is to show up with plenty of daylight ahead of you. I have made the mistake of showing up for camping trips like at dusk or near sundown, and it is just so stressful. There's so much to take care of and figure out and orient yourself and figure out where you're gonna park your rig and, hook up a high line or what have you. And it's a lot to try to manage when you've running out of daylight. Like, it just adds an extra layer of stress. And especially when it's your first time, there's just a lot that you're figuring out and getting settled and getting comfortable. And plus, if something were to go wrong and you did end up having to turn around and come home, you're still driving in plenty of daylight. You're not loading up horses in the dark. So I would definitely encourage you to get there as early as you can so that you've got plenty of daylight to just relax, get acclimated, and have a nice time. So the other thing you've got to do is plan out all your gear. There is a lot of stuff when it comes to horse camping. And if you don't have everything right off the bat, I wouldn't stress about it. There's some basics that you definitely need, but get all of your human stuff together, make a list in advance. If you're kind of new to the camping thing in general, you can watch my video on everything that I bring horse camping, which I'll link up here. And I basically go into great detail about all the stuff that we bring. We really kind of go all out with our stuff so that we can do a lot of cooking and things, but figure out what it is that you need. I also have a PDF checklist that you can download, which I'll link down in the description. It's totally free, and I just give you basically a checklist of all the stuff that I bring and make sure that I have when I go horse camping. I definitely recommend pre-cooking your food. This is a tip that I feel like is so helpful. My husband and I will pre-cook chili and stew and pretty much as we can, and then vacuum seal it and freeze it, and it just makes the whole cooking process so much easier. That's one thing if you're not used to camping. There's a lot to manage with the horses, and then when it comes time to taking care of yourself, a lot of times you're just like, I'm so tired. And it just makes it easy to be able to just reheat something and get it hot and have dinner ready to go. Personally, I am someone that tends to get chilly at night, even in the summer. And so it doesn't hurt not only to make sure you've got a warm enough sleeping bag and extra clothes, but I actually love to bring a heater. I bring a propane heater called a Mr. Buddy heater, and it is safe to use in your tent. I do vent my tent so that there's adequate airflow. And then I bring a full-size propane tank with me, and it has saved me so many times. I just cannot sleep when it's freezing cold at night. So if you're like me and you think you might be going to a place where the temperatures will drop at night and you'll end up being a little on the chilly side, it's super nice to have a heater in your tent. And super important is to get your truck and your trailer maintained. If your truck is due for an oil change, make sure that gets taken care of. If you need your tires rotated and your brakes checked, your engine, anything that could be wrong, or just general maintenance stuff that needs to be brought up to date, totally recommend doing that now so that you don't run into any issues. Your truck is going to be under a lot more strain towing a full trailer plus all of your gear and hay and everything else that you've got to bring. So you want to make sure that it is running smoothly. You also want to get your trailer maintained. If your trailer has not had its checkup in a long time, now would be the time to get that taken care of. I do trailer maintenance once a year in January, and this year I had no idea, but I had about 3 nails in my tires that needed to be patched. I needed to have the bearings changed out. There was a hinge that was a little bit funky, and the emergency breakaway battery, which is a super important safety feature on my trailer, had died and needed to be replaced. And the guy told me that this is actually super common, that those batteries don't last very long and that they do need to be replaced on a regular basis. If you have any questions about embarking on your very first horse camping trip, let me know down in the comments. I am so excited for you. I think you're gonna have a blast. It really is so much fun. And if you're interested in watching more videos on horse camping, I definitely encourage you to check out this playlist. I've got a ton of videos for you to enjoy. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.